Chapter 10 is on acquiring information systems. Basically what this is where does the software come from that your company uses? What is the source of it and what's the process of getting them? Looking at this then, an information system can be acquired in one of 5 basic ways. The first one is buy it and use it as is. This is what we used to call off the shelf. Called it that way because, believe it or not, back in the day, you could have actually gone into a store and purchased software in a box right off of the shelf. And you'd bring it home. It would come either on disk or finally on CDs and then DVDs. And you would load these onto your computer that way. So because it was purchased off the shelf, that's how we described it. So that was one of the ways of purchasing software for your company. Another way is to buy it and to customize it. Now what this means is that you buy an existing product. This is software that already exists, but then you ask if it can be changed in certain ways to make it specific to your organization. Now this is actually the most common way of a company getting software, is through the buy it and customize it. Again, even our software that we sell to business, many companies will certainly buy it and say, okay, it's a great product, obviously, but we wish it could also do this and that. Can you add these features to it? Or can it operate in this fashion? So what we'll do is we'll take our existing base software and we customize it to the customer's requirements, and obviously at a cost. Another way of doing it is renting it or leasing it. Sometimes your organization is going to have a need for software, but it's going to be on a very short term or a limited time. So there's no reason to really purchase the software. What you're going to do is you're going to find some way of leasing it or renting the use of it only during the period of time that you might need it. The other way of doing it is building it yourself. Is your organization capable of creating the software that it needs? Now again, some organizations, when we start talking about the organizations of companies, their IT department, their information technology department, will have a branch that actually does software development. If this is the case and there's a need for new software or an alteration of existing software, this can be done what they call in-house. This can be done where the company will build it themselves. The 5th way of doing it is outsourcing. No product that exists on the shelves, even with customization, is going to be able to fit our needs. We don't have the resources in-house in our company in order to do this. So we'll go and find an organization outside of ours, a business that does software development, to turn around and write it for us. These are the 5 ways that you're going to be able to acquire software for your company. Now, acquiring new software is not the same thing as acquiring a new information system. You have to really understand that this is quite different. An information system is much more involved than just the software that it's running. So because of this, there's a lot more to think about with systems than with just software. So acquiring an information system is more detailed. So first of all, new software must be integrated into existing systems. Again, think of your company. You started with just you in your basement. You started tracking everything using Microsoft Access. As your company grew, these databases fragmented into their own functional silos. You healed that by putting that all together. You now have a functioning information technology system running in your organization. You've got software that your salespeople are using, software that manufacturing is using, software for your HR, human resource areas. All these people are running software over your data collection. Now, you're going and adding software to it. You're going to acquire a new information system. Well, to do this, it's more than just going out and buying a product and putting it on your machine like you would now. If you were to buy new software, you would go and get it and just put it on your computer and run it. Not so much in business. One thing you've got to look at, first of all, looking at the software, you have to ask what technical infrastructure is going to be required to run this. Do we have enough of computing power to run the software we're buying? Again, a good example of this, when our product was first introduced many years ago, many computers, most of them were desktops, and they had very limited RAM. And ours, because of the AI component and what it did with the graphics side of it, required at least 4 gigabytes of RAM. Well, a lot of companies, when they went to buy our software, also had to consider, did the computers this was going to be put on, were they capable of running this software? And in a lot of cases it wasn't, so it meant purchasing our software and also upgrading either parts or entire hardware sections. The next thing you have to look at is the data. You've already collected all this data as your company has run up to this point. Will this new software integrate with existing data? If you are buying a new human resource system, for example, or a new inventory control system, you've got all this data you've already collected. Will this new system integrate with that data? Are you going to be able to use all your legacy data with this new system? If not, there's going to be a cost to converting that, because obviously you can't lose that data. Obviously you're going to need to use it. So if the new software doesn't integrate with your existing data, there's going to be that added cost and time and expense of turning around and changing the data so it does fit the new system. And then there's the people and procedures. You have to turn around and train your people on how to use this new software. There'll be new procedures in place. Say the software requires different information coming from the manufacturing floor, from the managers in manufacturing. New forms have to be filled out and sent in. Whole different procedures, whole different ways of doing business are going to have to be implemented in order to use this new software. Again, what is the time and what is the cost on that? These are all the things you've got to consider. So when we're talking about purchasing an information system, this is what we meant when we said it's much more involved than just purchasing software. Now, IT projects, information technology projects, have a large information technology component. And again, you would think that this is obvious, but in business, nothing is obvious. So in terms of budget and personnel, the whole concept of adding or increasing your IT capability is going to also have an increase in budget and or personnel. Do you have people that can manage and run this software? Now you're looking at now you've added a data management component. You're going to need to hire a data manager to look after that. Looking at this then, what is the scope of this new software that you're putting in? This new information system, how many people is it going to affect? What's the objective of this? Why are we purchasing this? What is the end goal we expect from this? What is the start and end date? And again, this is actually a lot harder than it sounds. A lot of companies have a difficult time even creating a start date, because what they'll do is they'll first go through committee, they're going to go through requirements phases, they're going to have other people's input. So the start date of starting to develop this has to wait until all of that's done. So some organizations have difficulty even coming up with a start date. An end date is almost impossible. The idea of trying to decide how long something is going to take to build, especially in software, what you can have is a goal and hope to work that goal. But again, this is something that you're going to be managing during the process. And then the temporary use of resources. The idea that in the transition, what type of resources are you going to need? And are they going to be temporary? This is going to need it just for the transition phase, or is this something permanent? Looking at this, is this unique? Has other companies and organizations done something like this before? And this is important because depending on your relationship with these other organizations and companies, you can go and find out what were the hard parts? What are the things we should look out for? How did you do this? What was the process? If what you're doing is unique and no one else has done it, you're inventing the wheel for the first time. And then is it accomplishing something new? How outside of what your normal business process is this new system? Is this something that is going to be totally foreign to your organization and to your employees? All of this makes it very hard to estimate time, budget, and scope. Again, this is more of an art form than it is a science. Saying to somebody, how do you turn around and how do you estimate this is extremely difficult. Looking at this then, you've got your IT operations or IT services. the delivery of service or maintenance, protection, and management of IT infrastructure. So you need to understand this because this is part of the process and you will be managing this part of it. You can only do this if you have a good working knowledge of the IT operations and services. So looking at this, including the production systems and specialties as networks and databases, when you're discussing that you want to add this information system because you have recognized this need, do you understand how that's going to fit within your organization? And your IT projects, the renewal and adaptation of IT infrastructure, the concept there of being able to express exactly how and what is going to be needed. This is a broader skill set than just working on, since you're going to be working on different projects. You're going to be working in a different area. Do you understand this area? You'll know your business. You're manager of your organization. You are the owner of it. For whatever reason, you will know your business side of it. Do you know the IT side? If someone says to you, well, no, you're going to need a T1 line because your Razafram is not going to be able to discombobulate along with your Magellan, are you going to understand any of that? Or are you going to realize that this person is going to turn around and tack $10,000 on the bill because she can? So looking at this, do you understand that end of the business? Well-recognized collection of books to provide a framework and best practices approach. There is a library out there. There are resources out there that you can go through and see that other organizations have done this same type of thing. What were the pitfalls? What should they have looked out for? What were the warnings that they have? What kind of advice is there? And these are a large set of management procedures designed to help the business achieve value from their IT operations. You'll learn many things on doing this, and in the end of it, this is going to also increase your value skill set, because after you've gone through a project like this once, you'll know what to expect the next time in. This ITIL has gone through several revisions. There's the core books from the latest refresh. These were published just in 2011, was the last update. But this library is out there and available for you to go and see exactly what it is others have experienced going through this. Now, what does an IT department do? Your IT department, your information technology department, it does much more than answer the phone with, have you turned it off and turned it back on? Because pretty much that's the staple of any answer from the IT department. When you call and there's any difficulty with your computer, the very first thing they'll ask you is, did you turn it off and turn it on? You contact Rogers or Bell about your internet. The first thing they'll ask you is, did you turn your modem off and turn it on? Outside of that, though, what else does your IT department do? Well, your IT department can be broken down into two sets. Every IT department does IT operations. The operations, the reason and what the IT department does is make sure your computer infrastructure is functioning correctly. So they will turn around and make sure that the printers work, that software is installed, that the network is up and running, that there's connections to the internet, the firewalls are in place. This is what they do. They report generally to either the Chief Information Officer or MIS Director and provides these services and manages the IT end of it. Some organizations, if they're large enough, will also have an IT department that can handle IT projects. And this part of it is going to be able to complete information technology projects, changing the business process, change information systems, change information technology. And again, some companies will have a whole section that does this. Others will depend on just their IT operations, that when new software is being introduced, hi, here's the requirements for the software. Do our machines match this? Looking at this then, what about the web? The web has become one of the major sources of delivering software. As you're well aware, almost all the software that you use, you've acquired not by off the shelf, not by putting in physical disks or DVDs, but by downloading them off the web. So looking at this, you know it's an important avenue for delivering IT services to an internal organization or external customers. Just looking at this, even the fact of advice on how to run computers, you can actually have an extension of your IT department. You can have an organization that you hire in order to answer some of your more difficult IT questions. You've got internal websites also, what they used to call intranets, include frequently asked questions, web-based forms requesting services, or web-based applications. Looking at this, here is a way of you use our software and you've run into a problem. One of the first things you're going to do is look at the FAQ. You do this because just like with OWL and the experience even that you're having now, you can get almost instant feedback by going to an FAQ. Look and see, did someone else have a similar problem? If they did and the resolution is right there, you've got your solution in minutes. Instead of waiting and emailing, waiting for the email response back from the company, waiting for them to figure it out again, all of this goes on over a period of time, whereas the FAQ can help. If you do have to submit a question, well, there will be set forms so that the receiving organization can process it better. Here's our one line of input. This is going to be our subject line. Gives us an idea of what department to send this to. All of this is very important. You've got public websites, support for external customers. Again, your FAQs, your support on that. You're running Facebook and you want to know how to do a certain part of Facebook. What they will have is an FAQ page you can go to. A lot of this then is going to help you use information technology better. So why are most IT projects so risky? Why is there a high risk involved when you're talking about adding new software and a new information system into your existing organization? There are many risks involved. And this is something you've got to consider when you're looking at doing this. So most IT project definitions, they're not easy to graphically represent. Looking at this, what you want to do is some way of conveying what is the requirement, what is the need. And a lot of times the need that you have, you're not going to be able to turn around and put this into a format that is easily understandable by many people. This is why a picture's worth 1,000 words. If you can diagrammatically represent what it is your requirement is, it's a lot easier way of getting that information across. There's lack of good models is an important risk to recognizing IT projects. Having any type of time frame, how long is it going to take to do this? Students of computer science know this already. When they're doing an assignment and they turn around and figure, this will take me 2 hours. Very hard to estimate. Sometimes these will only take an hour. Sometimes they take 10. This goes on into the real world. Estimating how long it's going to take to write code is a very tough prospect. Good estimates are difficult to develop because technology continually changes. The idea of you're working on something and all of a sudden a new type of tech comes out and then you have to address that. When tablets first came out and businesses recognized the benefit of using tablets, a lot of software had to be ported over, had to be written to be run both on a PC and on a tablet. Well, to do this in mid-development is going to increase the development time before the deliverable is ready. And being able to monitor the progress is another challenge. Me going up to one of my developers saying, how is it going? I can tell you the answer is always going great, coding like the wind. The thing is, though, there's no way to turn around and actually find a way of quantifying how they're doing. Well, I wrote 10 lines of code today. Yesterday I wrote 70 lines of code. That's not a good demarcation of exactly how much progress is being made. How far are you into the project? Well, that's fine until you hit a black hole. I'm 90% done. So you figure there's only 10% left. This doesn't take into account that all of a sudden you have a memory leak or you have a logic error that you've got to go back and refix. Rule of thumb with computer science is generally it takes 90% of the time to do the first 90% and then an equal 90% of the same time to do the last 10. And good managers will build this into the time estimate. They will look at this and they will know that the end takes much time as the entire project together. So that ends part one of our discussion on acquiring information systems.